Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are live. It is Let's Talk with BS. I'm the S. That's the B over there, Brandy and Soraya. So, listen, you guys, we are exactly on time. It is 6 o'clock. Amen for no technical difficulties today. Again, we try to bring you amazing topics related to mental health so that we can make the conversations happen around positive mental health so that we can remove the stigma and the taboos about talking about mental health issues and the things related to healthy states of mind. So today we have a special guest, Kelvette Beacham. Is that how you pronounce it properly?
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us on today. We do appreciate your expertise, and we are super excited to dive into this conversation where we will be talking about what, Brandy?
Resentment in relationships.
Ooh, we.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw these letters behind Kelvette's name because
Please
she
do.
learned them.
Go for it.
What is it? MSSALI
Yeah.
MSSA and LISWS.
There it is.
And I have
Come
no idea
on.
what any of those are. And she is the owner and founder of Life Bridges Therapy Services LLC,
Yes.
practicing therapist and specializing in couples therapy. Am I correct?
They can come. Yes. Yes.
You said they can go. So, Kelvette, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and who you are and what brought you here today wanting to discuss this topic?
Um.
Why don't you tell us a little
Sorry.
bit about
Okay.
you and who
I got. Okay. Oh no problem. Yeah. The big thing that brought me in was I really see that couples. Well, I'll talk a little bit about me first. Let's go there. Um. I've been a therapist for many years. I've been in the school setting, and currently I'm in private practice. Um, and what I'm noticing in couples is that people want to be in couples. They want to be together and they want to do it the right way, but sometimes there's these skills that are missing. So that's one of the areas that I really like to work with couples on is finding and bridging that kind of space in between. We want to do this and we don't know really what it is that the other person needs and how to make this work. So
Mhm.
that's where I come in.
That's awesome. I find it I found this very interesting because I'm a life coach. So I specialize in trauma recovery and things. And somehow I fell into the space of relationship coaching. Not real sure how that happened. However, I do have a couple right now that I'm working with, and there's a lot of resentment and a lot of issues and a lot of what you just said, trying to figure out how to grow from there. And so I'm excited about this conversation, even for that, even for them, and just, learning how to be better in my own relationship. And so I'm
Absolutely.
super excited to have this conversation with you today. So tell us a little bit about just how that looks. What do you think that the issues are when it comes to people having and holding on to resentment in their relationship?
Great question. So let's all go around. We can name a couple. So some of the things that cause resentment are unresolved arguments. We've
Mhm.
seen this. We've seen there's a conflict that we have that we just cannot let this one go. We're like, I'm upset about this. I'm upset about this. I've been upset about this for a long time, and we haven't got to a place where we can figure out a medium, like who's right, who's wrong. That kind of sticks in there. People build resentment from a lack of attention. They build resentment through overthinking bad experiences. So they're ruminating on something that's happened in the past in the relationship and they just cannot let it go. So
Mhm.
they really can ruminate and continue to kind of focus on what hasn't happened, what didn't happen, versus what do we need to do to work towards the keyword. I have a lot of keywords, but the first keyword is repair. So that's what we're going to get to by the end of all this is what are those tools for repair in relationships that have resentment.
Mhm.
um what are some, do you guys have some other ideas for signs of resentment in relationships?
Yeah, I know, and this probably falls under some of what you just said, but if one person stepped out on the relationship,
Mm,
and so there is, if it's a marriage, if there was an adultery situation or something like that, but the couple decided to stay together, there is a lot of times, and it is so funny because there's resentment on both sides. There's resentment, of course, on the person who was cheated on.
mm,
A lot of times they still hold on to the resentment, but the other person also sometimes hold on to whatever they feel like led them into cheating in the first place.
absolutely.
So whatever that issue was that they felt like they needed to step out, they are still holding on to that resentment as well. And then I found that they also build on top of that resentment because the other person is resenting them. So now they're absorbing that resentment, and they're resenting that person for resenting them. Like, it's just a vicious cycle that couples find themselves in a lot of times, I'm seeing.
Absolutely, absolutely. An infidelity is a huge place that resentment can build out of.
Yeah.
Um, Infidelity, lack of interest in
Finances. Yeah.
finances, lack of interest in physical intimacy. Sometimes criticism can even build into a
Yeah.
resentment.
Yeah.
So then I have like a few more, like retaliation, that feeling of tit for tat, like I'm going to
Mhm.
get back at you for what you did to me, and that's kind of where you were talking about as well, that idea that you did something to me and I'm mad at you for being mad at me for the thing I did to you. That
Yes.
vicious cycle.
Yes.
Um, Put downs are a big one. Anytime you're just putting somebody down, you are building that resentment in that person that you're putting down.
Mhm.
And then in turn, put downs can be a form of resentment. And
Excuse me.
a few more I kind of had on my list are unrealistic expectations can build a resentment in relationships, where you have this expectation that your partner has no ability to reach, and sometimes they have no idea that that's your expectation, which in a way makes it unrealistic if they have no idea that that's what you desire. um, Not being heard can create a sense of resentment. Always being late,
Mm.
sarcasm. Oh, I saw a hand, I saw a hand,
Mm.
absolutely.
Mm.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
I mean that, and whether or not we know it, that's where that comes from. That idea that like over time, it's that other person just eating it and taking it, and
Mhm.
not
Stuffing
expressing
it
that,
down. Yep.
stuffing it down.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want to say something too, really quick. One of the things in my coaching practice that I've learned is that this doesn't have to necessarily relate to just an intimate couple relationship. I have a young lady that I'm coaching who has the same issue with her and her mom. So it could be, it doesn't have to be an intimate couple relationship, but there can be resentment happening for any reason in any kind of relationship. It could be a friendship. I've fallen out with friends before and held resentment, and they've held resentment toward me as well. And the relationship was unable to be repaired, you know, at least right away, because we're both holding on to this anger or whatever it was that we had, or feeling of betrayal, or whatever it is that we were holding on to that caused the resentment. We're both holding on to it, and our pride is stopping us from letting it go and moving forward. So,
Yeah, I have a situation like that right now with a family member, but I'm okay. I don't let the whole thing go. That's just me.
Well, maybe today there might be some tools that we can use to explore that further. So,
yes.
and absolutely, these resentment is not just for relationships. Resentment can happen in multiple settings, like you said,
Mhm.
couples, our workplace, our
Yes.
our family. So, resentment doesn't just have to be exclusively for intimate partner relationships.
Yep. That's the truth.
Absolutely.
Any kind of relationship. That's good.
So
Whew.
maybe even though this is kind of backwards, some people might not know clear definition of that word resentment.
Let's do
And
that.
And I kind of talk about it. It's that harboring or holding on to this ill will or anger against who you feel has wronged you or hurt you in the past.
Mm,
So it's that all those words that we kind of were talking about. It's that you're holding on to
yeah.
something because you feel that they've hurt you in the past. And we
And
talked about.
it's, go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
I'm
Oh, go
sorry.
for it. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that that kind of leads me into the thought of one word that I hold near and dear to my heart that I enjoy heavily speaking about, that I talk about all the time, whether I am doing like a workshop or whether I'm coaching or whether I'm speaking somewhere, and that's forgiveness.
Mm,
And that word became so heavy within my world because I had to go through so much of it. And I had to learn
mm,
how not to hold on to resentment. I had to learn that sometimes you're never going to get an apology,
mhm.
right? And I learned that forgiveness is not for that other person
Right.
because that other person is likely doing their thing, living their life, not even thinking about if they even realize that they hurt you at all, because they may not, they did whatever they did thinking it was, normal or whatever, what have
Mhm.
you, not even realizing that it caused you so much grief. And they're on about their daily life, they're sleeping good at night, meanwhile you're harboring all of this angst, all of this, pain, all of this hurt from something that this person did to you in the past, and you're literally killing yourself. So forgiveness is freedom for you. It has nothing to do with the other person. It's
Absolutely.
alleviating all of the muck and mire that you have built up on the inside of you holding on to this thing. And how I got there was and I talk about this so often, is when I first started my forgiveness journey, I ended up in a church, and it was all by God because honestly, I wasn't even going to this particular church. I was headed to a different church. I don't even know how I landed at this church, to be
Mm,
honest. But anyway, the pastor said, holding on to unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
mm.
And when he said that, it hit me like a ton of bricks because I'm like, man, that's what I've been doing my whole life so far.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just holding on to all of this anger and all of this pain that all of these other people caused in my
Done to
world.
me. Yep.
And don't none of them care about that at this point. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I may never get an apology from people.
No.
I can't harbor that. I can't hold on to waiting on somebody else to feel like they wronged me and apologize for it if they
Mm.
even care that they wronged me. I
There
can't
it
do that
is.
to myself. I'm shaving literal time off of my life,
Hmm.
building up this stress on the inside of me because of something that somebody, I can't control anybody. I can't control what
Absolutely.
they do. I can't control what they say.
Yep.
I can't control how they think, how they act, how they respond. None of that. All I can control is myself and how I react and how I respond to situations, and that's all I can do. And so forgiveness is a huge part of that.
Hmm. And some of the words you said that they correlate so directly with where we're going, which is Gottman, which is a type of method that helps couples deal with their issues in the relationship. It's
Mhm.
like a therapeutic style. They talk about the anecdotes for these things. And you kind of talked
Mhm.
about the potion. And one of the anecdotes, or a portion of the anecdote for resentment, which they call contempt, which we're going to get to, is this idea of forgiveness. That's part of it. Part of it,
Mhm.
acceptance and forgiveness can reduce the resentment. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's right there. It's all interconnected. If you don't have that forgiveness piece, which like you said, isn't for the other person, it's for you. If you don't have that piece, you're not going to get I didn't mean to pun, but you're not going to find your peace,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
That's the truth. And I think a lot of people feel like forgiveness is really just kind of um, allowing a person to get away with whatever they did, or,
Mm,
it's just, and what I try to tell people is it's really not so much. It is kind of letting it go in the sense that you don't have to allow it or them to have so much control over you, because that's what you're doing when you're holding on to unforgiveness. You're allowing that person to have so much control over you and your emotions that you are not even able to control your own emotions, because they're the puppet master, because you're holding on to something that they did, which is causing you to have all of these random emotions, or and allow you to be triggered when something reminds you of it, because
Mhm.
you're giving them the power. And you are the only one that should have your power over you and your emotions. You should have that control over you
Absolutely.
and your emotions. You shouldn't allow somebody to have that kind of power over you. You know, it took me a long time. I was one of the things that the issues that I had was being molested as a kid for 4 years by this person.
Mhm.
And I allowed that person so much space in my life for so many years because I was holding on to this childhood pain, like wrapped up in it, and it
Mhm.
caused me to make so many incredibly bad decisions throughout my life. It caused me to have so much anger, so much,
Yes.
such a lack of trust of people. It
Yes.
caused me to not be able to have proper connections and relationships and so many things, but that's because I held on to it for so long and I allowed
Mhm.
it to cause those issues in my life. But if I had a found that forgiveness journey earlier on, not saying that I had to forget about what happened, I didn't, right? I didn't have to forget about it, but I also didn't have to allow it to have the type of hold on me that it
Mhm.
did. And I never have to go back and see that person. I never had to I didn't have to, have a relationship with that person. And it's the same thing in any other kind of toxic relationship. If it's a problem for the relationship, if it's something that you cannot um that you don't feel like you're going to be comfortable in that relationship moving forward, nobody says you have to. It's forgiveness does not make you have to be in the same space. It just means that you're giving yourself that freedom to be okay, but you don't have to be committed to that person anymore. You don't have to have a relationship with that person if you don't want to. You don't have to set yourself up to be hurt by that person again. That's not what forgiveness is. It's just
Mhm.
freeing up space inside of you, inside of your own heart and your soul, your mind. That's all it's doing, allowing you to be able to have proper connections moving forward so that you're not jaded, so that you're not carrying that baggage into the next relationship, so that you are able to trust people moving forward. That's my thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is from a person that forgiveness is far few in between, and I'm working on it.
Mhm.
But it's fine. I understand it. Everything's always just fine. It's fine. That's my defense. That's my new defense mechanism that I also need to work on. It's fine. But what are some tools
Mhm.
that we can utilize to bring us to understanding that forgiveness is for yourself and not necessarily for that person, it's for you to move forward? Like, what are some things that, like a general, not getting fully into depth, but just a start to be able to forgive whomever it is that you have the resentment for, or that you have some type of that they're staying rent free in your head and allowing to
Mhm.
take up space, to let that go, like some surface type
Actionable
stuff, not
steps.
some
Mhm.
deep work, because sometimes it takes some deep work, but
Absolutely.
Yeah.
just some surface things that you could like give us to you know help.
Kind of unearth some of those things. I think the first part is where you're at right now, being able to say, I have some issues with forgiveness,
Mhm.
because some people can't even get there,
Yeah.
and that's what keeps them from being able to even start the process. So one of the things that helps with this resentment thing that we're talking about as well is investigating your role in the situation.
Ooh, yes.
So if you're going to so what we're saying is investigate your role in this unforgiveness. Investigate how this whatever it is came to be. So I think that might be a good place to start. They talk about how introspection can really help us to unearth things, to move forward. So being able to kind of point that magnifying glass at yourself and take a deep look and say, what parts of this do I need to own? What parts of this are on me? And not saying blaming the victim of something, but understanding fully what's happening, especially in situations that don't have a victim per se,
Mhm.
where maybe there are multiple people that have done wrong to each other, like in a friendship relationship, where there's a need to say, like, I'll own this part because I did this part, but I want, and that's where that forgiveness comes in. That's the beginning stages of it. Um, yeah. So I think the first part of forgiveness is going to be even saying that this is part of. I like the word that you use, a forgiveness journey. Because one of the other things about this whole resentment is that we have to acknowledge that these things don't happen immediately.
Mhm.
There's going to be a lot of the work that happens over time. That's part of one of these, that one of the cures is this idea that it's not immediate. It's over time we find our repair. It's over time we find our healing. It's over time we are able to acknowledge and see the forgiveness part.
Mhm.
So it's being in that space, would be the first place to start.
Mhm. And just to add to that, I think that it all comes down to a decision, right? Like a lot of people will say like, "Oh, I just can't forgive. I just can't," But the reality of the matter is, when I started my job, I had to decide to forget. Like that's what was going to happen.
Flat out, flat
I
out.
could have stayed where I was easily. I could still at 47 years old still be in a place from something that happened to me 40 years ago. I still
Yeah.
could, you know,
Yes.
easily. However, there comes a time when you have to make a decision.
Hmm.
And that's what it boils down to. I am going to decide that I am going to forgive, and period. That's just it. Moving forward, I'm not going to allow this to continue to, like Brandy said, live rent free in my head. I'm not going to continue to do that. And the reality of that matter is, it's a decision that you're going to have to wake up and make every day, because you easily could slip back into the space that you were in. But
Because
when
it's not
those thoughts
comfortable.
start to
Mhm.
arise, you have to decide that you're not going to allow those thoughts to take a residency in your head. You're going to change them. You're going to think differently. And you have to continue to do that. That's a part of the journey. That's a part of the process. You have to continually decide that this is what you're going to do, because this is what you need to do for your own sanity, for your own health, for your own physical and mental and spiritual health.
Yes.
Because we were just talking, well, we weren't. I let them talk about it when we were on vacation with our cousins. What, last weekend before
Weekend before
Memorial Day
last.
weekend,
Yeah.
and I have a problem with grudges. Like,
Mm-hmm.
high key, have a problem with grudges to the point where the person just doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't really take up any space in my life to hold a grudge. I like can do it in my sleep. And this particular grudge, I think I had since I was probably about 7 or 8. And then she died. So I'm like, it died. No, I'm fine because she's dead and I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But to that extent, I'm 43 years old. Like I was,
Yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah.
let it go. Yeah, it stayed there for a long time. But now she dead. The grudge is dead. It's fine now. Like the resentment is gone. I don't hate her anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It just is what it is. But I'm okay, and I have to get to a point in my life where I am not okay with holding grudges, or I because
Mhm.
it doesn't bother me. Like everybody says, yeah, you're supposed to forgive so you can move on. I said I move on perfectly fine in my grudges. It does not bother me, and I think that's a problem.
What
because
does
I
it
cut
cost?
people.
What does that cost to you? That would be the question to ask yourself.
I was just
Like if
about
it
to say
costs you
that.
nothing, maybe, but does it cost you something to hold the grudge or yeah.
Because I cut the person out of my life completely, so I made, and it does cost me. It costs me sometimes other people that I may want
Mm,
to keep in my life,
yeah.
because it'll cost. Because if they're going to be there, I'm not going. I'm good. And those experiences with other people and building those relationships on certain events and things, that's what it cost me. But
Mhm.
I know that I need a therapy session to unpack that.
Hmm.
Because the reality is, you don't, like I said earlier, it's not that you have to move forward in a relationship with that person. You don't have to, right? Like, so that way you forgive them and you release them of that hold that they have over you. You don't have to have a relationship with them, but it keeps you from feeling like, oh, I can't go to this thing because they're going to be there. And then you still get to enjoy that thing despite whether they're there or not, because you're not holding that negative space with them anymore.
Yeah, like sometimes I can go to different, depending on the level of the grudge it is or whatever the reason may be. I still can go and interact, but that particular one was very traumatic. So it was trauma. It was
Mhm.
a traumatic experience wrapped in a grudge,
Hmm.
wrapped in some more stuff, and
Mhm.
wrapped in I never wanted to be around that lady. Y'all keep forcing me to be around this lady when I'm younger. So now
Yes.
you add some
Yeah.
more trauma on
Yeah,
top of
without
it,
healing from it.
without
Mhm.
healing from all the other stuff. Nobody, I never got an apology, and I
Mm.
felt like I should have. And then once I got older, I realized it wasn't going to come. And now I just don't want to deal with any of you people. And I would be
Mhm.
great. So it
Yeah.
Mhm.
fueled the greatness and it fueled a career, basically.
And that's
So,
interesting
yeah.
too.
But hey,
It
you know,
kind of sounds like you're using the defense mechanism denial. Like you're just denying that this person existed, denying kind of using that to not address it at all. And
Mhm.
what it sounds like is there maybe could have been some exploration of why are you so resistant to explore that path? What feelings
Mhm.
come up when you start going down that path of what happened?
with me, anger still.
And anger is a primary primitive, once again, emotion. It's
Hmm.
easy to go angry. But what's
Hmm.
Mhm.
really, and I'm not asking, I'm kind of saying like, this might be how I would explore this. What's going on underneath there?
Mhm.
How did you get there? That would be kind of where I would kind of want to kind of dig around because
Mhm.
anger is that surface emotion. That's that. Ooh, we all can go. Angry is fun. That
Yep.
one's easy. It's
Easy.
yeah.
Mhm.
But when we get into those more complex emotions, how do we address our hurt? How do we address our shame, our embarrassment?
How do
Mhm.
we address our hurt when everybody that did it to you was dead?
Yeah, that's true.
That's
And
And
that's
that would be part of it too. That's
yeah.
yeah.
that's a whole yeah. Like how do you address something with somebody that's no longer there? There's some ways, but
Yeah, I was gonna say I do some of this too in my coaching practice with having to have people, go down this journey with people that
absolutely.
aren't there, that but you still got to get to a place of healing for your own self, for your
Yeah,
own, the sake of your own mental health. And so, what
yeah.
would you suggest, Kelvette? Like, what are some tools that one could use in a situation like that if they're dealing with some resentment issues towards somebody who is maybe no longer living, or like there's just no way of contacting this person?
I would start with therapy. Sometimes
Mhm.
unpacking all that stuff can be so complex on your own. And I love when people start that work on their own. And if you can get it all done by yourself, go for it. But there's sometimes places that we won't go because we get uncomfortable with what happens when
Mhm.
we go down that path.
Mhm.
And that's what a therapist can help you to do, is to comfortably, safely explore those trenches, those paths, those places that maybe you don't want to go on your own, and maybe you don't even know how to start
Mhm.
going down by yourself. So I would say that would be a, once again, the place to start is doing it with a trusted practitioner.
Yeah.
Um, if that's not where you're at this time, I would start with gaining more full understanding of my feelings and how my feelings, do I have a full range? Can I be angry? Can I be scared? Can I be hurt? How does that look when I do, so I would say that would might be the place to start, is some self work, some exploring how my feelings show up in me. So that might be a place to start as well.
That's actually so interesting what you just said about can I even have a range of emotions? Because I'm thinking about my own journey and my own. Now I have all kinds of emotions. I don't know if it's menopause or what, but whatever. But but before I was almost emotionless. Like I really didn't
Hmm.
have a lot of emotions when I was stuck in that space. It was easy for me to flip the switch on a
Mm.
relationship on in like I did because I wasn't
Mm.
really able to connect well with people. So I could care less about cutting you off. Like I had
Yeah.
no emotions. Like I couldn't could I go angry real listen, I'm 0 to 60
Yep.
just like that.
Yep.
Right? But I did not have like I can't even say that I had like that love, like that true love piece. Like I, all of
Mhm.
those emotions, I didn't have that. I couldn't have those types of, hence the reason why I've been married and divorced multiple times.
Yeah.
Cause I couldn't, I don't know, I couldn't tap into those emotions. I don't even remember a time when I had those emotions
Mm.
really, like not fully. And I feel like they're just about back now. But what do
Okay.
you say to somebody who is in the space of not having the full range of emotions because they've been hurt, because they're holding on to resentment, because something may have happened in their past that they have not yet been able to let go? How do you suggest that they try to tap into those emotions? Are there any tools that you're able to give somebody who's in a space like that, having a hard time connecting or tapping into the complexity of emotions?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I think it ties into what we are talking about with resentment earlier. It's that being able to acknowledge that when you let something that is bothering you fester or go without being discussed for a long period of time, that's where that resentment grows. And one of the things they talk about is that using those I statements. And I think that's something that people can practice starting right now. You can immediately start using those I statements with friends and family to increase your feelings vocabulary. So it might look like, I feel blank. When was
Mhm.
the last time you said I feel blank and actually put the feeling word versus the thing? So
Mhm.
people feel great about saying, I feel I feel he did blank. No, we're
Mhm.
not using you blaming language.
Mhm.
We need to acknowledge our feelings in this. I feel hurt. I feel confused. I feel embarrassed. I feel excited.
Mhm.
I feel stressed. What, put those feelings words in there. And the little kind of formula they kind of talk about is, what am I feeling? Insert those feelings words. Don't resist that piece. So here's kind of like a little formula. It goes, I feel, insert that feeling word. Okay? I feel I feel lost. I feel um I feel belittled. I feel invalidated. I feel, put that
Mhm.
word in there. And then the next part is the request or the longing. I'd like, you know, I'd like, I'd like whatever that is that you're longing or desiring.
Mhm.
And then an invitation What do you think about that? Can we talk about this? So you're opening that up. You're having that space. When I talk to people about doing it, maybe another way to use the I statements is, I feel blank when you,
Mhm.
because, and I need for you. And then when I teach it to real little kids, I just say it's a bug and a wish. It bugs me when you blank, and I need. So they're starting to build that language in with teeny tiny people as
Mhm.
well. So we part of that is how resentments build, is when we continue to sweep those those things under the rug.
Mhm. Eventually, you're gonna trip over that lump. I say it all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And what they really kind of sometimes don't even address is that what drives contempt. Oh, I didn't resentment, contempt, and anger are all part of a continuum if you think about it like that.
Mhm.
You think about resentment is those feelings towards somebody that you feel is above you. And anger is that kind of reserved for people with an equal status. I'm angry at them. That's of equal status. But contempt is when you feel that that person is below you.
That's good.
So you're seeing that contempt as, well, that person is below me, and that's ugh, this is how I feel about them. So when we talk about what drives contempt or resentment, is we've been using the word resentment, but when
Mhm.
it gets to that place of disgust and hostility, that's contempt. So when it gets to that place, what drives that is that desperation, an attempt at getting a need met, or someone attempting to stand up for themselves. Yeah.
Hmm. That was really good. I like how you
So you
broke
just
those.
unpack the whole
Yes.
book.
Oh,
I never thought about it like that, I don't think, in the, breaking it down
But breaking
and
it down.
who is actually
mm,
geared toward the different type
absolutely.
of emotion and who that's geared toward. Because I think a lot of times we take those words and we mesh them together and we kind of
Yes.
give them the same meaning, and they're not the
Same
same
word.
words. They're actually not synonyms of each other. So, but I
They
think
run in
that
a continuum. They run on their, yeah.
yes. I think that's incredible. That's a tool for me even. I think that's awesome. Wow. So
Right.
resentment is up, anger is across, and
Mm,
contempt is down. That's
yeah.
good. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm over here
Well, I,
taking.
I know, I know, I
Right.
don't
I'm
know.
taking mental notes cuz I'm trying to focus, but I really want to be writing this down too.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I was coming back to my key word. My key word, there about to be a couple of these. So,
That's okay.
and then, people kind of say, like, well, what am I supposed to do? Where am I going with this? Like, you've said what I did, you said what I'm doing. What do I do now? Like, how can I kind of repair this? And they talk about the repair is to create an atmosphere of appreciation and fondness.
Yes.
So you creating this atmosphere of appreciation and fondness. And the first word that we kind of talk about is that word create. And I think sometimes people think that when you are having any type of relationship, friend, family, or an intimate partner, is magic. It's just supposed, it is what it is. It's
Mhm.
not. It's work. And that word create is a verb. That's a word that you have to do. You're not just going
Action
to
word. Yes.
magically have these great relationships. You're not going to inherit it. It is not osmosis. You have to create. And
Yes.
create is to bring something into existence.
Ooh.
So if you're going to create something, that means you have to do the work. It's as a result of one's actions. So you have to create this atmosphere. You have to create this space that this happens in. And then we talk about the atmosphere is that tone or the need of a place. So the atmosphere is that where it's happening at. And then the last part is that appreciation. And that means to this is my favorite part. I've been saving this. I've been saving this. It's appreciation. Like, I appreciate you. What does that really mean? Because it means to increase the value of an asset over time. I told you I was coming back to over
Ooh.
time.
Yes.
So if you appreciate, that means that you are going to increase my value
Build my value
over
over time.
time. That
Yes.
didn't say immediately, and that didn't say what value is. Value, we immediately people go cha-ching, cha-ching. It is not monetary. How can you increase somebody's value without money? Compliments,
Yes.
encouragement.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not exclusively for money. And then your partner is an asset. That other person in the relationship you're with is an asset, something you value.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So,
assets generally appreciate over time,
or they depreciate if
or
they
they
are
can
treated
depreciate.
poorly.
So it depends on what's happening exactly. So if you
Hmm.
pour, it's just like a house. I'm gonna come back to another analogy, but since we're on this right now, it's just like a house,
Absolutely.
right? If you have a house and you go in and you what's the word that I'm looking for? Like you
You
gut it out,
renovate.
renovate. That's the word. You renovate it and
Absolutely.
you build onto it and you put new cabinets in it. It's going to appreciate in value. It's going to be worth more than it was when you first got it. Conversely, if you allow it to go, to the wayside and you
Yep.
mess up the walls and you allow the leaky roof to continue to fester and you got mold growing in the walls now and you let pests come in and take over, like it's gonna depreciate in value. It's gonna be
Absolutely.
worth way
Absolutely.
less than it was initially. And so this is how you have to um approach your relationships. And I want to go back to just to kind of give a little bit of analogy, because sometimes people need this when you were talking about creating a thing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
making it
Mm-hmm.
into what you want. My mind instantly went to baking a cake.
Mm.
My husband loves for me to bake him lemon cakes. We're trying to stay away from those things right now, but he loves lemon cakes, right? But my thing is like,
Make one for me and give it to Brandy because I want to taste that lemon cake. Okay,
okay.
make me a little slice. Yeah.
So, but my thought is, okay, and I'm thinking about how do I make this cake? Like I gotta put, a little oil in it. I gotta put this amount of eggs in it. He likes when I put the little jello pudding in it to make it to make the
Oh,
consistency a
the
little bit that
texture.
like
Mm-hmm.
right. So, but the thing and the proper amount of water too, and whatever else I'm using, I gotta flour the pan so that the cake doesn't stick to the pan when you take
Absolutely.
it out, right? So my thing is, if any one of those ingredients are lacking, the cake is not going to come out like it's supposed to.
Yes.
Conversely, if I put too much of something in there, it's gonna be messed up. That way, you have to have the proper measurement of things. You have to look at the recipe and do it properly.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's not your final creation is not going to come out the way that it's supposed to do. And what happens when you bake the cake properly and it turns out great, the person that you have baked it for is going to enjoy it,
Absolutely.
right? Like that, it's the same thing with your relationship. You have to put in the proper work, the proper amount of ingredients. You
Yes.
have to bake it for the proper amount of time until it's properly
Mhm.
done. All of those things in order for your relationship to be at the point where it's fully baked and everybody is able to enjoy it.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's not going to work. It's not going to be done inside. Or, it's not going to taste right because you put one egg instead of two. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you got to
It makes
do
a difference. It
it
makes a
does.
difference. And even if it look alike, that don't mean it's the same thing. Salt and
Woo!
sugar look, they
Say that
twins.
again.
They
Say
twins,
that
but they are
again.
not the same.
Woo!
So you have to really look at what you're putting in the relationship. And
Yes.
I also want to think about what we started talking about at the beginning of this is we're talking about all the relationships. The
Yes.
relationship you have with loved ones, the relationship you have with intimate partner, your
Yes.
children. Are you
Yes.
are you putting the right things into those relationships? Are you appreciating them? Are you increasing their value? So it's about
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, we
Our
lost the
sound
volume.
went off. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Say something. No, we can't
Oh,
hear you. We
it just
lost
went
you.
away.
Uh-oh. That's okay. Sometimes y'all know technical difficulties happen, and then hopefully she'll come right back. Anyway, Man, this is good
Yeah.
and and necessary, I think, because I feel like so many and let me let her back in, you guys.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, my little old phone.
That's all right. Technical
I guess it
difficulties
depends.
happen sometimes, you know. It is
Yeah.
what it is. But I
No.
was just telling Brandy, I was like, this is good. This is good information, and necessary information because I feel like a lot of people are struggling in the area of relationships right now. I don't know if it's just kind of, where the world is right now as far as, trying to come out of this pandemic and like all of the different emotions that brought up, and just, you know, all the
Mm.
different things with work and working from home and people are together more now than they
That's what
were
I was about to
before
say.
and
When you don't,
causing
when
they're
you're
not
used to
used to
not spending that much time with your
yeah
mate, and then you realize, like, do I even like
like
you?
you.
Yes. Yeah.
I know it's been hard on some people. So even just
Yeah,
talking like you could develop resentment that you didn't even or
no,
have some form of resentment because now they're home and they're doing things way different than what you're
Yeah.
normally used to because they're
yes,
not at home this much to bother the things and the stuff that you have sitting where you have them sitting because that's
yes,
so now,
All the
like,
time.
you really just gonna keep moving this stuff around, or you're really not gonna put your clothes in the dirty clothes. Like that's an issue for a certain person, especially if you haven't been here. Now you here with me for basically almost 2 years,
Mhm.
messing up my stuff.
yeah.
Yep.
So speaking of that, Kelvette, can you give couples some tools or some tips to maybe try to avoid going into the resentment altogether, or if they're just starting to go into a space of resentment because of these things. So these are couples that have they're now spending all this time together 24 hours basically that they weren't used to spending together before. What are some tools that they could maybe put into place to not develop resentment in the first place?
The first way is to create that atmosphere of appreciation and fondness. You gotta like the person.
Yeah.
Gotta like them. You gotta love them. You gotta be into it. They talk about being real and genuine in these relationships and increasing empathy. Having that
That's
there. The
good.
other the other
Mhm.
one that we kind of talked about earlier was that acceptance and forgiveness can reduce the resentment. So, and that doesn't mean you're accepting everything that they do, but I know Brandy raised her hand when we said late earlier.
Mhm.
So let's say you have a late person that's chronically late in your life. Sometimes being able to accept that you got to give them a 10-minute wiggle room. Hey, we
Yep.
always know this person's going to be 10 minutes late. I'm already forgiving it.
Yep.
Forgiving it. Is that a word?
I
But
don't
anyway,
think so, but it's okay. It's all good.
but it's that idea of we have to be able to say some of the things that our partner does. If they move this stuff around, are we really that mad? I mean, is it real, or is it something we kind of can be like, I get it. They want to move the stuff around. Go ahead, move the stuff around. That ain't the be all end all in our relationship, or it might be, or it might be Freddie's face. But yeah, the other things they talk about are that investigating your role in the relationship and
Mhm.
being introspective, acknowledging your feelings, knowing how to access and maneuver your feelings are great ways to prevent resentment from ebbing into your relationship.
Mhm.
Apologizing when necessary. It's a great way to
Yeah,
prevent that resentment. Um, and expressing your feelings, your longings, and your needs when they come up. So
that's
it's
good.
about saying, "Oh, well, it didn't bother me that much." If it bothered you a little bit, let them know. And you don't have to do it in a harsh way. And that's one of the other ones is being gentle in your letting someone know when they do impact you. But
Mhm.
letting your partner know when something is bothering you. It's really important. That's especially a good one if you want to stop it early on. Because the other part is your partner's gonna do things that bother you. Period.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
there's there and then being able to have a safe space where you're able to tell them that they did something that bothers you is the other part. And then the last word that I'll kind of end on is that word fondness.
Mm.
Fondness has a lot of layers, and How do you build fondness in a relationship? So you like the person. We think about the good times, the old good times. Think about the future. They talk about touch, using connection. Maybe that might be sharing an embrace with that person, hand holding. Maybe it's a 6-second kiss, something, one of the techniques that they use in the program. And that bottom layer of that sound house is getting to know that person, getting to know that person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the one thing a lot of times we look at in relationships is, I met you when we were 22, we've been together, and it's 10 years later. You're a different person.
Mm-hmm.
This is a different person. And taking that time to know your partner every step of the way along the relationship, not waiting until you get to a place where you guys are two totally different people that have no longer have anything that makes you a couple anymore. Being able
Mm-hmm.
to acknowledge that as you grow. Oh wow, my partner's getting these new hobbies, I love that for them. Versus, oh wow, my partner's getting these new hobbies, that really put a wedge in our thing. um,
Yeah.
so being able to acknowledge who you were is different than who you are. Who you were is different than who you are. And the last part I will say is gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Those little things, like, you want more of this, praise that behavior. You want more lemon cakes, I bet he tell you how good them lemon cakes are. Okay, he want more lemon cakes. So
Mm-hmm.
praise the behavior you want more of. You want more of your partner going to start your car in the morning, let them know that's your thing. You
Mm-hmm.
want more snuggles, tell them how good they are at it. You want more of them to go to the store for you, let them know how much you really appreciate that. Thank you, I
Mm-hmm.
needed that, I did not want to go out the house. So starting with the big chunky ones are that creating an atmosphere of fondness and appreciation. So that's the big
Mm-hmm.
chunky one, and then everything else kind of comes out of that. So yeah.
And I think that as you were talking, I was thinking about, I think it would be helpful and beneficial for people to operate more in the appreciation and giving grace,
Mm.
because like you said, people, we're human, all of us are, we're going to do
Yes.
things
Yes.
to irritate the other person. We're going to, it's
Yeah.
gonna, there's no way not to do it. There are going to be things, it just is what it is. Nobody's perfect. I don't know what's happening over there with you.
It's
But
the
nobody
net.
is
It's
perfect.
about to be net season. My
I
plants
I hate
Yeah.
are
them. I hate
producing.
them.
Yes, me
Yes.
too. They're
Yes.
everywhere though.
It's okay.
Sidebar.
Sorry. I
um,
couldn't stop it.
but the our partners, and in other relationships, our friendship, like, people are going to do things that we don't like, that we don't agree with, but we have to understand that not everybody is going to be who we are. They're not going to think like we think. One of the lessons that our mom taught me, that I will never ever forget, is that it takes all kind of people to make up a world. It does. Not everybody is the same,
Oh
right? Just
yes.
because
Oh
you
yeah.
guys love each other and you're in a partnership and you're in a relationship, a marriage, whatever it is, still doesn't mean that you guys are always going to think the same way all the time. It's just not going to happen. So when that person does something that you don't like, or they move something that you didn't want them to move, or sometimes you have to operate out of grace. You can't always just be like, ah, and just ready to be on the attack because they move the candle from one table to another.
Yes.
If that's the thing that sets you off, you need to practice that introspection and figure out why moving that candle sets you off in the way that it sets you off.
Why'd I do that to you? Yeah.
Why? Because there's something deeper going on. If that's
Yes.
the case, if you are not able to operate in grace sometimes, and I'm not saying that, just like you said, you don't have to let everything go. Like, you don't have to just let a person just walk all over you either. However, some things you have to understand, that person's personality, that's how that person operates. And so you kind of work together to figure out if that's something that can be tweaked or not. And if you're able to handle that thing, and if you're able to give that person the grace and the space to be who they are authentically, and not feeling compelled to have to change to meet your needs just because that's the person that you are. You guys have to learn how to compromise and walk together and work together, being authentically who you are, and making concessions where necessary and when necessary, but doing it together.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
man, this has been incredible, Kelvette. I'm so happy. I feel so blessed that we were able to have this conversation. Can you tell, do you have any final thoughts, any final words for people that are out there struggling with resentment in their relationships? I know you said that definitely get therapy. That's for sure one of the top. So, what else would you suggest? Any final thoughts for the people?
Mm, I think the other glaring one is introspection, self-awareness. You know, how increase your self-awareness, being able to check in with yourself and know what what makes you tick is so important.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you can have insight into your behaviors, the more you are able to navigate any relationship.
That's good. That's actually really, really good. Um, do the work, you guys. Do the insight. Well, look inside. Eyesight is one thing, right? Because we can see everything else that's happening
Mm-hmm.
around us, which means we can blame everything else that's happening around us. But you have
Mm-hmm.
to look inside and see what's going on the inside of you, so that you can then affect the environment around you. Um, to kind of better meet your needs. That's how it starts, in my personal opinion. So, you're a therapist, you're a licensed clinical therapist, right? Based
Mm-hmm.
on your
Yes.
titles. Do you work with people virtually?
Yes.
Okay, so tell the people how they can work with you, if they, and what you specialize in, so that if there is anybody listening now or listening later, they can get in touch with you if they need this kind of help.
The website is lifebridgetherapyohio.com, and we service clients across the great state of Ohio. Anyone in Ohio. Um, the areas that I like the most, like I said, I really enjoy couples, but I also enjoy anyone that's transitioning, life changes, going from one stage of life to another,
Mhm.
um, or dealing with any kind of change. So I really enjoy those type of people, those populations. Depression, anxiety, all of those will fall under the gamut of mental health. If you're struggling with those, we definitely work with those as well. Like I said, the website's a great place to start. LifeBridge Therapy Ohio. We're on Instagram at LifeBridge Therapy. I'm on Instagram at Meanwhile Kells. And yeah, that's a place to start as well.
That's
Sidebar:
awesome.
she takes insurance, people.
I do. I
Nice.
do.
So you can do private pay and insurance.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
important for the people. Private pay and insurance, you guys. So
Yeah.
go to that website, see if it's something that will work for you in your relationships, in your life, even if you're not in a relationship, but you're dealing with things that you feel like you could use some therapy for. Go and check her out. Listen, therapy is so hugely important. I don't know what I would personally do without it. So definitely get you guys a therapist and get them problems handled, y'all.
Guys,
Cause
I keep telling her I need to come just sit on your couch and practice. I have the website
Yes.
one more time, Kelvette. They're
Yes.
asking.
LifeBridgeTherapyOhio.com.
if I don't know if you're able to put it in the
I'm
chat,
I'm
Brandy, because I never can see the chat, so I don't actually know what's going on in the chat. So, but
therapies.
while Brandy's doing
LifeBridgeTherapyOhio.com.
lifebridgetherapyohio.com. Yep. And then While Brandy's typing, I'll go ahead and let you guys know how you can contact me. I am Soraya Christine. You can find me there on Facebook, as well as LinkedIn, as well as Twitter. On Instagram, I am Healing with Lilac. Lilac Health and Healing is my coaching practice. For any of you guys who feel like you need trauma recovery, you've dealt with things in the past and you could use a life coach. I specialize in trauma, depression, anxiety, divorce recovery, childhood offenses, all of those things. I also wanted to just say that I have a workshop starting tomorrow. You still have a very short window of time to get into this workshop. It is a 6-week workshop called Right to Heal, and it's going to meet every Monday for 6 weeks, except for July 4th. You guys can go to lilachealthandhealing.com to join in, but you literally only have until like noon tomorrow. So go ahead and get signed up for this workshop if you feel like you could use some healing, but you got to be there and you got to do the work. Brandy, how can they contact you?
I am Brandy Davis on Facebook. What's Miss B.A. Davis, the stylist, on Instagram. If you put my name in, spell it with an I, that's the only proper way to spell Brandy. I'll pop up with all my things. Um, to DM me or get your hair done. Um,
That's the
what-
plug.
right. It's a shameless plug. What else? I think that's it for me. Everything is my name, so you can't not find me. I'm Googleable.
Love that.
What was I about to say?
Right.
Thank you, Kelvette, for coming on and sitting and chatting with
Absolutely.
us. This was
Yes.
amazing because, um, yeah, even with just speaking with you with the what we went through, it had so many like, oh, Brandy,
Yeah. It was some gut punches in there.
like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah, it was.
I thought I was a very, even chord, like, oh, I'm good. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Mm.
No, it's not. It's not fine. Why do you not
Mm-mm.
like people to move
Mm.
things around? Yeah. No, I need a couch. I'm past that. But thank you so much for coming on and having this
Absolutely.
conversation and giving us these starter tools because
Yes.
all of the tools that you gave us, not only for romantic relationships but for any relationship that you're in, you can utilize all these things. And the fact that I sat here and have went down a list of people that I need to put some more, open or be more vocal with the things that I don't like and do like,
Hmm.
none of them were intimate relationships.
Mm-hmm.
They're my personal relationships.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, I allowed them to just walk all over me all the
Yep.
time. And
Yes.
then when
Yes.
I don't, it's from 0 to 100. Like, don't say that to Brandy because you know she gonna flip out.
Mm.
It's probably true, and I don't have to let it get there because I could use better language. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, just even the I like or I don't like, or you made me feel, or I feel this way. That
Mm.
itself, you have
Yeah.
helped me so much.
This was very healing,
Absolutely.
very freeing
Absolutely.
conversation. I do want to be respectful of your time and everybody
Oh, for
else's. We are a
sure.
little bit over. But if you ever want to come back and join us, you are definitely welcome. We really appreciate this opportunity, and appreciate the time that you've dedicated to be here. It's been incredible, and I'm sure that it will help somebody. And so I hope that this opens the door for even more business for you, because I think you're incredible, and I'm just overjoyed with this conversation.
Thank
So,
y'all. Thank y'all so much.
absolutely. Thank you again. Again, this is Let's Talk with BS. We will be back in 2 weeks. I
I
don't
will
think
not.
Brandy's going to be there, but we'll have our co-host. We'll have a special co-host. We'll see. It may be Ivy, which you guys have been familiar with before. It may be somebody else. I don't know. Maybe Kelvette will want to join us sometimes to be a
Ah,
co-host. We'll see.
Because I
I don't
travel a lot. I got a lot of vacations coming up, so
actually. So
good.
we'll talk more about that. But I really enjoy talking to you. So we'll look at that. All right, you guys. It's been incredible. It's been a wonderful night. But we're gonna go ahead and sign off.
bye.
Bye.